what is there to say, right? Legendary Studios proved once again that they have their finger right on the pulse of the community. Okay, so new article just released, a casual conversation. And of course, this is addressing some of the concerns recently being talked about or presented within the community in regards to essentially onboarding of new players with casual events or social play, if you will. So they have introduced a few different changes to sort of endorse and further support casual and social play as a proper format for events by local game stores. Okay, so just to read off the highlights, right? So we don't really need the introduction. Casual play armory events. We want to make sure stores had a range of armory options that appeal to their local communities, so they're introducing casual play events. Stores can now run up to 2 armory events per month as casual play events. This means that all the prize packets and all the support by Legendary Studios to LGSs can now be used for 2 events in a casual setting, which is fantastic, right? Meaning now that there's a bunch of new formats being supported by the actual competitive scene tied to Legendary Studios, right? So we have Ultimate Pit Fight, Commoner, Team Limited, and Blitz Pre-Constructed, which I think Blitz Pre-Constructed and Commoner are the big ones that need a lot more support or incentive for local game stores to run, because these are the 2 main events that can act as onboarding for new players, right? They are the most simplistic formats. Blitz Pre-Constructed, obviously, you just buy a Blitz deck and you use that to play. You don't make any tweaks, you don't add in any expensive cards, you just use the Blitz decks, which I'm not sure how much they are in USD. They're about $30 to $40 in AUD. So, that's a fantastic sort of introductory product and now event for new players. And then, of course, we have Commoner, which, as the namesake implies, uses primarily common cards, so the bulk of any Flesh and Blood set. I do somewhat think that Commoner could be extended to allow for rare cards. I don't think rare cards are overly expensive, and then it would help create a little bit of diversity. I don't know. That's a little tweak in my mind, because Commoner right now is Young Heroes, common or rare, still the Blitz sort of format, 11 weapons, common or rare, but then the 40 main deck cards, right, are commoner only. Right, so this directly addresses the issue that a lot of game stores are only incentivized to run the higher competitive events, right? Normal Blitz and Classic Constructed play, which then see a decent entry cost or upstart cost, right, to making a proper competitive deck, which then a lot of people were griping about. You then have the issue of not being able to utilize your cards or the skill behind the players of those formats being, a higher level than that of Commoner or Blitz Pre-Constructed. So I think this is a decent change. But the overall big question to sort of ask is 2 armor events per month as casual events enough, right? Is 2 the correct number? Okay, so if a LGS runs, let's say weekly events, which from looking at my local game stores, right, they're not weekly, they're every few days. But so 2 weeks out of a month can be these casual events to bring in new players. I'd almost say that 4 would be a bit better, right? You could have Beginner Monday or whatever you want to call it, where you have people come just to play in these casual events. And obviously through supporting them with prized events, you have a greater incentive for people to play. And then you can directly endorse them to then pick up the harder events, if you will. Because another thing to sort of mentally assess is between the 2 events, right? What does that look like? If you put 2 at the start of the month, then anyone who wants to play in a casual sense or anyone who wants to just pick up the game, well, they have to either cycle and wait till the next month, right? Or go find somewhere else. At 1 every second week, you still have that problem where in this given week, I now have to wait a whole week, and that's a large chunk of time for certain circumstances to change, right? Me looking up an event and seeing that every Saturday, okay, we've changed from Monday to Saturday, yeah, my mind's a bit rattled, I'm still a bit under the weather. We can go to a casual event. Okay, you could have the start of the week be a casual event, and then the end of the week be the more competitive normal Blitz and Classic Constructed events, right? So you can onboard people start of the week and then have them come back at the end of the week to now play these serious events. If you do Sunday to Monday over the weekend, well, again, you could have people come in on one day, and then if they're really feeling confident and up to it, they can then have a crack at the more competitive events, or even just run them back to back, right? I think 2 is a bit limited. I think having the ability to decide in totality what events your game store want to run based on your community would be significantly better, right? Because if a game store just suddenly adopts Flesh and Blood, right, and they're really trying to get people involved and build a community there that isn't really established, well then running all your armor events as casual play would be significantly better, right? Ramping up to these serious events could be a better idea. So imposing this sort of limit rather than just saying that you can now choose to run either casual play events or serious events, I think would have supported the idea a little bit better. I'm not saying this is bad, right? 2 is fantastic. The simple fact that you can now use the prize packets for casual play events is fantastic. Okay, so overall this change is still great. I'm just questioning whether or not, a little bit more would have been better. Okay, and then to break down the format, so we've got unlimited pit fight, right? So this is where it is a all-out brawl. I think it's usually 4 players. No, it's literally just 3 or more. So that in itself, you'd have one massive winner-takes-all brawl, which sounds pretty cool. And in this sense, going back on the 2 armor events, this doesn't really onboard players, right? It almost just allows game stores to circumvent competitive play. So, re-examining it. Commoner and Blitz pre-constructed, using them as the onboarding method for casual play for beginner level competitive events. Okay, so don't call them casual play, call them beginner, right? So having Ultimate Pit Fight and the other one, Team Limited, right, could be the casual and social play events, and then you use Commoner and Blitz pre-constructed to now resemble beginner competitive events, right? So these are the onboarding mechanisms for classic constructed and proper Blitz competitive play. To that degree, I'd almost say that Commoner needs to be adjusted to reflect classic constructed, right? Because you already have Blitz pre-constructed for the Blitz template. So if you were to up the card pool for Commoner, you'd have a easier way to transition players from Commoner to classic constructed, and then from Blitz pre-constructed to then tweaking your deck and adding in more expensive cards to then compete in normal Blitz competitive play. But overall, this change is fantastic, and again, it really cements the fact that Legendary Studios is constantly listening to its community, right? It's probably been 1 or 2 weeks since this issue has really hit its stride, where a lot of people have been going back and forth about the cost of play and getting into competitive events and what's the biggest hurdle for new players. So this is fantastic to see, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some applicable tweaks, right? So what do you think would be the correct course? Do you like the sort of idea where if they use Commoner and Blitz pre-constructed as the onboarding events, right, and then keep Team Limited and Ultimate Pit Fight as the casual and social play events, something like that? Or do you think this is completely fine as it is, with 2 events per month for casual players? Or do you just completely disagree? Do you think that they shouldn't be able to reward the prize packets for these events and it should stay for proper competitive play? Let me know. Anyway, yeah.